Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Rousseau. I'm here with filmmakers and actors from our Texas opening night short film showcase of the Comedy Film Festival. I'm so thrilled to have a number of different filmmakers with us. So what we're going to do is kind of go around, introduce you to all of them. Tell us a little bit about your film. Michael, let's start with you. Let's hear a little bit about Leverage.
So I'm Michael Charron, writer and director of Leverage. Leverage is an action comedy. I love comedy. That's what I make. And I'm always trying to push it in a different direction, right? And with this one, I really, I grew up loving 80s action movies. I love ridiculous characters and silly violence, and a huge fan of Shane Black and that style of filmmaking. So I reached out to a bunch of filmmaker friends, actors that I've always worked with, and said, "Hey, you guys want to do action?" And they were like, "Yes." And so I ended up having to do it, right? Because it was everyone wanted to do it. It's the biggest short I've ever made. It was 6 days of shooting for a 14-minute film. But that was, action takes a long time. There's a fight sequence in it between Lish and another actress that, we did most of a day just doing that one scene. It's about a minute, a little over a minute, right? So it was a lot of fun. It's very silly characters and concepts, but the fighting was really cool.
Wanetah, I'm going to throw it over to you. Really excited about Jackpot. Tell us a little bit about the film and yourself.
Yeah, I'm Wanetah Walmsley. I am the writer, director, actor, one of the actors, and sometimes camera operator in Jackpot. I shot Jackpot with my lovely partner, Jason Edwards, and we shot it with an iPhone, and it took a lot of coordination. We shot it in one shot, and we delivered the 7th take, and Jackpot is essentially about a couple who hit the lottery and kind of goes into a whirlwind of what to do now with the money and how it affects their lives, and for better or worse, maybe. So that's essentially what it's about. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you. The other, it's a really cool idea that y'all went about, and we're going to talk about it, in a bit. But it's really cool to hear that it was actually shot in one take, and y'all kind of went about it in that way. We'll get back to that in a moment. But as we continue hearing from the different filmmakers, really excited to hear more about Dirty Laundry. We've got Andrew with us. Andrew, tell us a little bit about the film.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Andrew Neylon. I was a writer, director, editor for the short Dirty Laundry. I made this while I was getting my MFA at UT Austin. They forced me to do all those things in a way. Like I was required to edit that project, although it was pretty fun. But yeah, so it's a short about, I would classify it as a dark comedy. It's short about a comedian and just basically some of the things that go on in their life as they're trying to get to a show that they have going on, and basically sort of the fact that a lot of comedians work autobiographically and sort of all the things that can go wrong when you're on your way to a show. And also essentially the idea that a big part of doing stand-up, especially when you're earlier on, you're not like a household name or anything like that, is just the fact that you want your friends and your family to go, and some of the foibles that come along with the rejection that can come sometimes when you like have a big show but nobody's available to go to it. So it was shot over the course of 3 nights into very early mornings. So it was a classic night shoot. I used the laundromat. It mostly all takes place at this laundromat. I rented it while it was not in operation, so that was fun. It was sort of like when they would close it down, they'd let us use it, so that was interesting. And definitely was all the classic night shoot beauty and pain that comes along with making everybody drive home at like 6 a.m. and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a fun time.
Definitely going to be a few follow-up questions about that process and those characters, but kind of in a similar vein, a film about a performer. We're thrilled to be joined by Nathaniel Hendricks with Don't Buy the Liverwurst. tell us a little bit about the film and yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathaniel Hendricks, and the film I directed, Don't Buy the Liverwurst, stars John Gholson, who's on the call with us. And I wanted to point out it was a film I wrote for him. And it is a comedy, but it's also, I think it does have more dramatic elements. I think it's kind of a sad film as well, but it is about a comedian, and it's set in the 70s and is about a washed up novelty musician who was inspired by all these sort of forgotten novelty musicians that I bizarrely grew up on. The main inspiration was Alan Sherman, who, if you're not familiar with Alan Sherman, he was the guy who wrote the Hello Mutta, Hello Fada song. And he had that big hit and did some TV, and then he died a broke alcoholic. And I was always really kind of mesmerized by his personal story, because he, was sort of a flash in the pan, but for a very silly song, and then had a sad death. So that's what it's about. And kind of combined with a bunch of other sort of novelty comedians from that era, people like Von Meter, whose entire career was built around his ability to do an impression of JFK. And then when JFK was assassinated, his career went belly up and was never able to perform again. So that whole world was really interesting to me. And when I met John and worked with him on my film Ultimate World, I realized he is our finest living actor. And I just wanted an opportunity to not only work with him, but to build an entire performance for him. And it was a match made in heaven, and he did a terrific job. And it also gave me an opportunity to write music and work with music, which I love.
Well, I can absolutely agree that John Gholson is an amazing talent, and we're really honored to not only know him, but to be able to work with him. For anyone who hasn't seen it, please watch Brian Connolly's Make Popular Movies, where I'm not going to spoil it. Nathaniel's also in that movie, but John has a scene-stealing long take that people everywhere walk away. And I mean, it just absolutely got ripped off by the Oscars for that. Just absolutely ridiculous that he didn't win for just that one scene. Rounding out this block, we're really thrilled and honored to be joined by Taylor Fredricks, who's representing Basil King. And this is a really unique opportunity, actually. This is our second year of the festival, and Taylor is a true I guess, what would you call it, success story of our festival. He was a part of the first year where he had a pilot presentation of Basil King, then shot Basil King, and is now back at the same festival with the completed film. And we're so thrilled to be able to showcase it here in the opening night. Talk to us a little bit about it, Taylor.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. That was great, man. Yeah, I'm stoked about it. We've been working on Basil King for past couple years, just marketing, trying to, create this brand and that everyone will never forget. And I think we're slowly but surely getting to that point, which is great. But Basil King is essentially a dark comedy, R-rated comedy, mafia satire, very Goodfellas meets Eastbound and Down, with hints of Tropic Thunder and It's Always Sunny. And so we're really going along that route where it's, kind of tiptoeing the fine line of what is woke and, cancel culture, and really just kind of doing what we think is funny, because, comedy is subjective, and it's, it's not meant to harm anybody. So it's pretty much about these three overzealous gangster wannabes who knock off the wrong guy, and now they have debts to pay because that guy owes another guy money, and now they're just kind of getting into this grave that's too deep to climb out. So yeah, we shot the pilot. We actually just finished writing the first season, which we're really stoked about. And yeah, having the pilot screen, it's going to be like the essentially the world premiere at the Comedy Film Festival. And we're freaking stoked about it. I know everyone that we've been talked to that's been a part of it is just been bugging us about it, but it's like, hey, we're very strategic in the way that we, plan everything, especially when it comes to social media, and really trying to keep the hype up, keep the buzz going. So yeah, we're really excited to be doing it at the Comedy Film Festival, especially doing it for an encore screening as well, which is really badass. yeah, Basil King has been my baby for the past couple years, and I'm the writer, producer, actor in it, and can't wait to show it for everybody.
It's going to be really cool to have all the films. We're really excited about it. What I want to do is just kind of hear from, we're really lucky in that between, Taylor, yourself, as well as Wanetah, but we're also joined by John Gholson, as mentioned earlier, and Alyssia. We've got actors on the call as well, which we don't always have the opportunity to do. So I first want to start with Alyssia. Tell us a little bit about the experience, working on this film. And I think one of the exciting points is that this was not your first collaboration with Michael, correct?
Yeah, correct. So first film that I did with Michael was First Impressions. So it was I'm a very animated person with my face. It just looks that way. I can't help it. And so doing Leverage was more of Jade Betts is, serious. She's kick-ass. So even on the first day of my fight training and stunt training, and when they were asking me about, what kind of stunts I could do and fighting I can do, it was like, oh, I can do cheer stunts. They're like, okay, first of all, don't make that face. You're supposed to be a badass, beating people up, not cheering. So that was a fun experience to try and remember, like, okay, I'm doing a routine in my head, but I can't smile. I can't do facials. I have to be mad and serious about it. So very different, but it was such a blast and it was so much fun. And Michael has these one-liners that he puts in his films that sometimes I think he sees my face when he writes them. So it kind of just comes out naturally for me. But yeah, absolute blast working with him and continuing to work with him. So.
And in a similar vein, John, as alluded to earlier, you've worked with Nathaniel before. I think a couple of us have worked with you as well. Talk to us a little bit about the process of taking on this role. And this is so, you have to be multifaceted to it. There's not only a comedic element, but also there's drama to it. There's music to it. Talk us through kind of getting in the headspace for this character.
Probably had more rehearsals for this than other bigger, and I mean physically longer projects. There were pretty extensive rehearsals working with Nathaniel one-on-one, because the short is mostly just me. There's a little bit with another character, but it's almost, I think, 15 minutes of just me, more or less. So there was a lot of one-on-one rehearsals with Nathaniel, going over the character and his inspirations, and just running scenes and running lines and that sort of thing. And the unexpected result of that was how flexible the actual shooting set was in regards to being accepting of new ideas or things that weren't necessarily, ink to paper in the script, but still felt within the tone of what, still worked within the parameters of the tone he was going for. And so there was some flexibility there to collaborate, which is, I probably have, I like to problem solve. I worked in software user experience for a really long time. And so I like to problem solve, and then I also like to write. And so anytime I get the chance to problem solve, or to put on the writer's thinking cap and think okay, how can we get this within this sort of fence that you've created? I felt like Nathaniel afforded me a lot of opportunity to do both of those things, to be a part of the problem solving, to be a part of, I don't want to say part of the writing of it, but have some measure of influence while still fitting within Nathaniel's vision of it. I found it to be highly collaborative, and it was great to get to work on something where somebody had worked with me previously. I had auditioned for it. And because I auditioned for Ultimate World, it wasn't hey, I've got this for you. It was I happened to be at the right place at the right time, and they were holding auditions for Ultimate World. And it was interesting. I don't think I've ever, at that time, I had never been in anything that somebody had written explicitly for me. And so there's a different kind of challenge in regards to that as well, because you want to make sure that you that you don't let the director think that they chose the wrong person, or that they didn't have necessarily a read on you, or that your energy was off, or it wasn't really what they wanted. So there's some pressure there as well to be the you that they need you to be, while also portraying a character.
That's pretty deep. Yeah. I get where you're coming from on that, for sure. So something that we've now heard both John and Alyssia mention is this idea of collaboration. And Wanetah, I want to get your take on this, because you're in that unique position with Jackpot where you kind of are on all different sides of the production. So talk a little bit about what that was, that, collaboration, the acting of it, really, like, you mentioned this is a collaboration with your partner. Talk a little bit about what that's like with your film.
I think it would have to start with how we came down to the iPhone, like why we chose the iPhone. And I had watched this YouTube video of like a create your own adventure type short film, and the cinematography, the camera was like POV, like a game, right? So everything, the camera turned, like it was just you, and it had hands. So all you could see was wherever you wanted to go, but it also had hands, and it was brilliant. And I was like, this is so cool, because it just gives you more of an experience. And, I had come up with this idea of like, okay, what I wanted to write about. And I've shot a really beautiful short film before. It was gorgeous. It cost $30,000. It was awesome, but I would not do that again for a short film. Just personally, I just wouldn't do that. And I just, I've thought a lot about short films, and a lot of times it's a great piece for cinematographers. You have that long extended beauty shot, but it's hard to fit a concise story inside of there. And for Jackpot, I knew I wanted it to be about story. And when I saw that YouTube video, I looked up the cinematographer, and I actually ended up pseudo knowing him. So I reached out to him, and it was just, honestly, it was just going to cost an arm and a leg, right? And also, he wanted a huge crew. And in my mind, I knew that it was just going to be me, Jason, and a whole lot of space, like a tiny apartment, because we're not rich, right? And we're just running through this apartment, but we needed freedom. And it kind of just came down to all of that, and the fact that it's about money, and just like as artists, I'm just tired of the gatekeepers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to ask permission. I don't want to raise a bunch of money just to get this vision out of my head, because it doesn't quite need to be beautiful to tell this kind of story. So that being said, I was gonna use just like my camera, nothing fancy, but I had a decent camera. And I was going to make it out to be, she's a YouTuber. And then it just hit me that like the phone just needed to be lightweight. It was probably going to be thrown around, and I just couldn't have it get in the way. But I also wanted it to kind of be a character, or to at least give the viewer the perspective of what it's really like in that chaotic moment. Because the film is about, literally, they hit the lottery right then and there. And it's like 12 minutes after they hit the lottery. So what happens, right? So I rewrote it a little bit to make her a YouTube vlogger. And so, using her phone was absolutely acceptable, and being able to, why she had a phone in that moment, was acceptable as well. But I just knew that I wouldn't be able to do it without Jason, because Jason is so incredibly technical. I mean, he's just like half computer. And it was beautiful, because I come from the theater. He comes from the theater a little bit, but it was just to run it like theater, basically, is what it was. I wrote it, and then we did we kind of did a podcast version of it, just to send to the cinematographer at first. So we kind of knew it, and it flowed. And then when we got there into the space, the location and marked out the shots, it was all about where are we going to put the camera? When is it coming down? You know, who's picking it up? Which direction it's going to go? When is it okay to hold it in your hand? It was nothing but coordination, honestly. And then, you know, you have to really factor in performance meeting the technical side of it. You know, if the camera was perfect, but the performance was a little off, you know. So after 7 takes, it was obviously going to be the best that we could do. I think we did do 8 because that's how I am. But after 8, I was like, all right, this is it. So, I mean, that was the beauty of it. And after all of that, I think the experience of shooting it the way we did is why I'm so proud of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's also kind of that meta quality of it.
Exactly.
Where, you know, this is about people who strike it rich, and they also are going through like what that means. And so I think the idea, and this is funny because, you know, Nathaniel and I actually made a movie together that is also kind of pokes fun at the idea of people who strike it rich. That John Gholson.
Lucky Dog, available on Amazon and Tubi.
That's true.
Right.
But we made it for almost no money. And this is kind of a really similar
Exactly.
kind of idea of like, what if you take the idea of, you know, a lot of money, but then make it with none. And so I always like when you flip it on its head, and then also the idea of kind of having it be a piece of film, but also something that is very theatrical is really cool.
Nice.
So, Taylor, for you, the collaboration, I mean, like you said, this has been your baby for years. You're in front of the camera, you're in the writer's room, you're, I think, also a co-producer, if I remember correctly. Like, what, you know, for you, talk about collaboration, you know, on all sides of the camera and all sides of this project a little bit.
You know, Basil King wouldn't be what it is without collaboration. Me and my homie Ryan Castro were the co-creators of it, but without bringing on our buddy Isaac Seago to help pretty much write it. Like, he loves writing. Like, I like writing too, but like, that dude loves to write. I'm just like, cool, bro. All right, here's a computer, and you know, so jot some stuff down, and we just went all force with it. And then we brought in Shalava, who is just, you know, without her, it would not be what it is today. She just been, you know, she's not only our co-producer, but also our AD, and, you know, she just, you know, has so much insight when it comes to social media, and just also, she's just a very, you know, she's got that AD mind, so she's very, like, you know, organized and just like wanting to get shit done, which is great, because I mean, that's along the same lines as me, not to that extreme extent, you know, in the best way possible, right? But like, you know, without that piece, it'd be, you know, I feel like a lot of it would come, you know, fall on me to do. So it's great to have her on my side to make that happen. But yeah, like, a lot of the people that we had involved on the crew, you know, were a lot of friends, and, you know, it was a tight-knit budget. You know, I think we were looking at like $15K for the entire thing. We had like 7 locations, 5-day shoot. And a lot of the crew, including the cast as well, was very, you know, they pretty much did it because they wanted to do it. They wanted to be a part of it. And it was probably one of the most funnest experiences. Definitely one of the biggest productions I've ever produced. Definitely the most longest production I've ever produced. And you know, everything leading up to it, you know, of course, everything has its hiccups. Every production has its hiccups. You know, but like, the fact that we kind of like teamed together and knocked out those issues that we might have come across, and just kept the train rolling. And then when it came down to production, it felt like it was super smooth. Everyone had a good time. It felt like it was just a family. You know, we created this like family, and the more that we keep doing that, because it's like we also got this like the TV series, and then we got the YouTube series, which we're doing these little spin-off shorts within the same universe that are very like low to no budget shorts. But then again, we have such a great such a great support system around us that just wants to be a part of it and be a part of the crew and wants to be a part of what we're doing. And it's, you know, super grateful for that. And so seeing all that kind of come together, it makes my job easier as an actor, because it's like, you know, being from the producer standpoint, it's like, man, it's like, all right, you know, it can get stressful, and it's like, you know, going through all the things, trying to make sure everything goes smoothly. But then it's like, once we get into production, it's like, okay, cool, I can take that producer's hat off for a little bit when I'm in front of the camera and just act and just focus on the performance, and really just create with, you know, some of my best friends. And so I guess, yeah, from a collaborative standpoint, you know, I mean, any project that I've been a part of, it wouldn't be what it is without the collaboration standpoint. And, you know, I'm from Indiana. I had a support system up there, a film fam up there. And I was like, I moved here to Austin. I was like, I don't know if I'd be, you know, be able to find that same support system, but, you know, I did that, you know, times 10, and it's just like, just keeps growing, this support system that we have in Austin. And it's super beautiful. How many people just love to create and love to be a part of it, and, you know, not trying to compete with one another, but help lift each other up. And that's the biggest thing that I absolutely adore about this film community. And yeah, I'm super stoked to be a part of everything that we do. So yeah, again, I appreciate all y'all on here and hearing all what you guys got going on, and, you know, it means a lot. And get, you know, working with Michael, working with Alyssia, and working with John too. That was a good time. So yeah, it's been wonderful, especially since a lot of times I've been acting in my own films, and this past year I've gotten a lot of opportunities to act in other people's films, and I'm super grateful for that. So yeah, collaboration is key.
So, Andrew, I want to kick it over to you. And I want to hear a little bit about, you know, what it was like collaborating with, you know, you've got this film about somebody who's getting started in stand-up. You're also working with Angelina Martin, who is a stand-up in Austin, Texas. You know, I've got to imagine that there was some kind of, you know, kicking around of like, how do we approach this, tapping into like what it was for her to get started. You know, and somewhat similar to Don't Buy the Liverwurst, there is this idea of like almost the entire film is just focused on this one character in pretty much this one space. So talk to us a little bit about some of those aspects.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I remember I showed the film like much later on to one of my professors who wanted to know kind of like what I'd made so far and where I came from. And then I remember after we watched it, this was PJ Raval, who some of you may know, but I remember PJ was like, yeah, so this was like basically a monologue, which just made me laugh. I feel like that's very true to form assessment right there. And, you know, there's that all happened the way that it did for a variety of reasons. And basically in the UT program, this was the first year you're required to make both a documentary short and a narrative short in your first year. This was my narrative short. So that, just truthfully speaking, there were a lot of restrictions placed on this film. I didn't select my crew. My crew was assigned to me. We all worked on each other's films, essentially. The number of shooting days we were allotted, equipment we were allowed to use. These are all things that we were, you know, basically, I guess you could, you know, there's freedom and restriction. That's what they say about haikus. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the idea. And so that informed just a lot of the decisions in terms of like just shooting in one location primarily. I was already shooting at night. So that was kind of like, the combination of those two things was very powerful in terms of just the number of hairs I pulled out of my head at that time. But yeah, working with Angelina, I mean, was definitely a joy. I'd done, I think at that point, I was maybe like working part-time at Fallout Theater. And so I had seen Angelina perform. I knew I wanted to work with a comedian. I was really interested in that. But yeah, because of the amount of time, I mean, this all had to happen in a semester, essentially, although I did a good amount of work on this film afterwards. So there's sort of multiple versions of it and iterations. And in the film, you know, something we haven't really touched on, which is that this character, which is played by Angelina, is also gender fluid, and so is also exploring that through comedy and the impact that has on kind of family and friends who might attend this show that the character is going to be putting on. All of that meant that there were just a lot of decisions to make in a very short time. And trying to get that right was actually a real kind of struggle for me in various iterations of the film, just because of the amount of time involved. But yeah, I mean, working with Angelina was definitely a joy. I had seen Angelina perform at that time and was really interested in her comedy style. You know, this was done like a number of years ago at this time. So Angelina was also much younger as a comedian at that time than she is now. She's also, frankly, a lot more established, I would say, now than she was then, although she had already been like involved in like Austin's Funniest Comic contests and stuff like that. So she definitely knew what she was doing. But yeah, probably in terms of just that collaboration, like honestly, like in terms of rehearsals and stuff, I wish we'd been able to rehearse more, because this movie is pretty much, you know, almost all about her. You know, I didn't have a lot of scene partners or anything like that. It was a lot of just her and I having conversations, but also because of the breakneck pace of like how long I had to make this film, and I was crewing on 5 other people's films at the time, I didn't honestly have a lot of time to work with her in some cases. And so I kind of had to just rely on her knowing what she was doing, which she really did. So, you know, for instance, the scene where she does kind of stand up in the laundromat to a bunch of, I guess it's dryers, she improvised all of that. I mean, we did kind of talk about some of the themes, but, you know, I really relied on her ultimately in that scene to kind of bring her part as a stand-up. I do stand up now, but I wasn't doing it at that time. So I kind of relied on her a lot to bring that part of it to it. And I'm glad that it made it into the film, you know, because it's also a showcase of her work as a comedian. And again, she's, you know, got a lot going on at this point in Austin as far as comedy goes. But in that regard, I guess, like at the end of it all, I was kind of like, well, at least I did a good job with you know, it's sort of like, you know, you want that diamond in the rough, or you're kind of like, you're imagining maybe what might happen in the future for this person. And I was really happy with it as a showcase of her skills, but also in the way time has sort of passed since then, I was like, well, you know, that plot of land, you know, the real estate value went up, which is always cool to see.
Very cool. And very cool that, you know, you did kind of have this moment where you captured Angelina in a specific moment, and now you're even, you know, kind of taking that similar path is really cool. So, you know, one of the things as we continue this talk about collaboration, I saw Nathaniel Hendricks' eyes kind of perk up when you mentioned Fallout. I know that, you know, for you, Nathaniel, that was a key creative space. Talk to us a little bit about, you know, with Dope by the Liverwurst, the continued collaboration. You mentioned a little bit with John being in your projects, but it goes beyond that. And I'm also curious who from Fallout is still involved with your work.
The 2 actors in Don't Buy the Liverwurst are John and Red Jefferson. And Red Jefferson now lives in Los Angeles, but I met both of them by doing comedy at Fallout. And I think the thing about Fallout specifically, because I became involved there in 2015. So if we ever needed a space to film something, like multiple films, multiple sketches early on, but Fantasia, which I know will be screening on Sunday, I think, we just let ourselves in to work. And we would just get tools out of the back and paint the sets and put stuff up and film. And it was not only a place to meet people, but it was somewhere outside of your house where you could make noise and set up lights and do what you needed to do to learn and to teach yourself. And that is incredibly hard to find. And if that were not possible, then I don't know. Then Austin, when I moved to Austin, that would have been a bad choice. Thank God that was there. And the collaboration, like it was an amazing place to kind of hone collaborative skills, which then paid off. John was talking earlier about he didn't want to take any credit for contributing to the writing, but I don't think that is fair, because John actually suggested the ending of the film. The final ending that you see came up on set. It was not in the script. The original script, the ending was bad, and I was always kind of hemming and hawing over it. And then like on set, it was sort of like every day we were approaching that final shot and we were like, I just don't like it. I'm like, well, we sort of were putting the pressure on us to be like, oh, something will occur to us. And then John had this brilliant idea. And I remember asking the crew, like, okay, everyone, we're going to change the ending. We think, what does everyone think of this? And I pitched it and everyone ignored me because they were working. So I turned to John and I said, let's just do it. And it was great. So I think that John should get some credit for collaboration in that respect. The whole thing was very, if I can add one more thing about collaboration, it's not Fallout specific, that in the past, any thing I've made has been because I took the initiative early on to be like, okay, I'm going to make this, I'm going to bring people on. Or it was like a group of us, you know, like with Lucky Doug, being like, okay, we are going to make this, let's start bringing people on. But Don't Buy the Liverwurst was the first time where I mentioned the idea to a friend, Zed Hamblin Domino, who's the Masterpiece production designer. And he and I were hanging out, and I mentioned this idea, and I said, yeah, but the problem is that I need to film in a mid-century modern home. I need a film in a home that looks like it was from the 50s and has not been touched since the 50s. And Zed, being a production designer, was kind of, you know, talking about that and like the idea behind dressing that kind of set. And then 3 months passed by and Zed started texting me like, here's a list of addresses of homes that I've reached out to. And I was like shocked, like without guessing me, he just started reaching out to locations. And he's the guy who found the ultimate location, and it wouldn't have happened without him. So that was like a whole new world, a level of collaboration where I wasn't just asking someone to help, but someone was excited, and it was like a level of trust that I never felt before. And it was very beautiful.
Well, and on top of that, you also have your frequent collaborators are back for this production. Is that correct, Nathaniel?
Yes. Veronica Payton, who was the producer and also wrote the score, the original score. Jackson Warner Lewis was the director of photography who shot Ultimate World. And Spencer Lucas, who I co-directed with in the past and have written with in the past, wrote an original song for it. So
very awesome.
Yeah, lots of good folks all hopping on board. Also, our first AC came out of retirement to first AC on this film.
Wow.
So he quit being a first AC, but he came back just for this. So that was wonderful.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So this is kind of a two-parter to Michael. So not only about collaboration, but you know, I know that you know you've got this vision, Michael, of you know constantly kind of this pace that you make short films at, and so it's not only about like your frequent collaborators, but also, and I think I've mentioned this before, you have just been making films in Texas for, I mean, just such a long time, and just, you know, you've gone to all of these different festivals. Talk about those two aspects, not only the frequent collaborators, who I think, you know, we're lucky to know some of the same people. We mentioned John is in one of your upcoming projects, but also making films in Texas.
So yeah, I mean, on the collaborator part, to go back to Fallout, like I've met a lot of people through there. Like I worked with in the past, Ariel Greenspoon, Rob Gagnon, and they introduced me to Chadwick Smith, who's been in like my last 6 films. Like ever since I first worked with him, I was like, I love him, and he's one of my favorite people. So I find a role for him in everything, right? And then I'd seen John there, and you know, when we had this role in the film. I don't want to give it away who John plays in our film, but we were both like, who could play this? And then I turned to Chad and I was like, I'm thinking John, and he was like, me too. And so
Michael, I haven't mentioned this to you, but I got recognized. Somebody 2 weeks ago, I was on set and somebody was in something that played Prison City, and they were like, wait a minute, weren't you? So I just wanted to pass that along to you because I haven't seen you since that happened.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you know, and then behind the camera, I have the same people, like my cinematographer who also edits everything I do. We've been friends since we were 10 years old. And he's a phenomenal, you know, visual artist, right? And then the guy who does all of my post audio, score, everything, I've known since I was like 11, right? And we were in bands together in high school. And so I've been able to put together this crew of people who just love to create, right? And I met Lish at film festivals, right? And when I find new people, I met, you know, Taylor, same thing through film festivals. We screened together with his Rebel Without a Beer and started hanging out at Short Film Showcase, and finding people that just love making films, and right, and it's bringing that community together has been really important. And that, I mean, I guess that kind of answers your thing about film festivals. The second part, right, about like that's why it's so important, is coming out and in the networking and meeting the people that you know, it's not necessarily, you know, some of the big festivals, maybe something is going to make your career, right? But a lot of the most important things you'll get from it is meeting other people to collaborate with and finding other voices that bring new things to what you do.
Well, as we kind of wrap things up, I'm always curious, especially with short films, because they can be, you know, a launching pad for something more to expand the story. If, you know, what's next, either for this project or for these wonderful filmmakers and actors that we have here today. Wanetah, let's start with you. What do you see Jackpot continuing on? Are you looking ahead to the next project? What's next for you?
Well, Jackpot originally, my original idea for Jackpot was to be a series where they hit the lottery and then they're going to hide it from everyone they know, and what could play out with that. So I'd still love to see that. But as far as Jackpot, I took a good couple of years off of acting. That was really necessary for me. I feel great. You know, it's been a little questionable coming back. But I do know that I love to write and create. I love to collaborate with people. I certainly don't want Jackpot to be the one and done for me. I have another script that I wrote a long time ago that was great, and I wanted to produce it, and it won like a SAG thing to like go do a reading type thing. And I just didn't pursue it at the time because it just wasn't the right time. And I didn't have the right family. I still don't. I feel like I'm in BFE, Texas. We likely will head to Austin soon, but my family's kind of wrapping up here and I'm just enjoying it and taking the time. So I lack a community. So I love what Michael said. That is like the big win for us coming out and getting to meet people. But that being said, I still write constantly. I have like feature film ideas, I have series ideas, but I just don't have the infrastructure yet to really be like, okay, this is it. And I think I've just been taking some personal time off, being a student of music, of life, and slowly getting back into acting. But yeah. So if anybody sees it and is like, hey, let's do a series, then, you know, maybe things will fall into place. But
Absolutely. And I mean, exactly what you said, exactly what Michael alluded to. I think, you know, let's see how things go on the ground in Austin at the film fest, and maybe, you know, you meet some of these lovely faces, meet some future collaborators. So keeping things rolling. Alyssia, what's next for you on either side of the camera? Because I know for Leverage, you were not just an actor, you were a producer. So what do you have coming up?
Yeah, so right now, me and Michael, we're working on our next short. We do have Time Capsule that's out on the film circuit right now. So we're working on our next short. I'll be helping produce that one as well. And sorry, I have a little dog that's on my lap right now. So I'll be helping produce that one as well. I've been doing some writing of my own. Again, I mean, I go to these film festivals and I watch, you know, these incredible performers and artists and filmmakers, and it's just inspired me so much to not only, you know, be just an actress, but I do want to write, direct, and create some of my own films. So I'm hoping maybe in this next year that I can put one of the films that I've written, bring that to life, and hopefully have the collaborations of everyone that I've worked with to come on down and and build it together with me. So.
And in a similar way to what we were just saying about Wanetah, I think, you know, you've already got some really great collaborators, and I'm sure be meeting even more very soon. John, I feel like I keep hearing your name and your face attached to like every other project. What's going on for you? What do you have coming up? I know, well, actually we talked about it earlier. You're in Michael's next film that's hitting festivals now.
Yeah, Michael's movie's making the rounds. Liverwurst will start making the rounds. We're God, it's killing me. I've got stuff I can't talk about that's literally next week that everybody will know about, and then I don't know. I did a film based on. It's a horror comedy based on a comic book by cartoonist Johnny Ryan that stars Robert Longstreet and Steve Little from Eastbound and Down. And Macon Blair is in it. I have a meaty role in that movie, but that probably won't start seeing festivals until the fall. And then there's I did a Netflix sketch comedy show that has yet to have. I don't know what's going on with it. It's in a few months it'll be coming up on a year since we shot it, and I don't know where that stands right now. So I don't know what I can and can't say. But yeah. I got a bunch of things that are like out in the ether that I have no concrete dates or ways to watch it right now. Hit me up and like have another comedy film festival. Just do this whole thing again in like, I don't know, 5-6 months, and I'll be able to answer this question more concretely.
I mean, I think that the biggest thing is you're doing a lot of stuff. You're staying busy. People are knowing and understanding the genius of John Gholson.
I say it will. Thank you. While I have the opportunity to promote, I do have a sketch show that I wrote running the first 4 Saturday nights in May at Fallout at 7 p.m. It's called The Last Voyage of the Voyagers. Yeah, there's some self-promotion for you.
It's fantastic. For anyone in Austin, come check that out. It'll be right after the Comedy Film Festival happens. Andrew, you mentioned that this Dirty Laundry happened kind of a little while back. You mentioned that you're doing stand-up now. Where are things taking you? Are you still doing the MFA? Did you wrap that up?
Yeah. I mean, this is gonna like date some information. I'll also say on the train of Fallout Love, I was also one of those people who worked there for improv classes, so that made me laugh. That was actually like deja vu, honestly, to hear that other people were doing the same thing. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it'll date me. It'll sound really funny, but it really is more just a reflection of kind of my working process, and also just I think that a lot of times, depending on the type of story you're telling, I think some stories are maybe more delicate in certain ways than others, and so I'm a big like it takes the amount of time that it takes. Also, try to remain pretty productive, but I think you can see that reflected through a lot of my work. So yeah, I mean, so this was shot pre-COVID. It was shot pre-COVID, and it was finished in one way, and I felt like I was kind of rushed. I mean, the process of being like, make this film in the semester is great, but I also did feel very rushed that way. And working with my composer and things like that, I felt like he had to make the music really fast. And that's like every time we would do one of these, we would kind of go back later and be like, well, what if we did what we really wanted to do without like the pressure of a screening and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I did finish my MFA. I finished in 2022. And I moved out of Austin at that time. So I live in Chicago now. I can't drive. I'm legally blind and totally colorblind. So Austin was a lot of fun for the purposes of utilizing the university system, to get things done. And I mean, having all the resources and an equipment rental shop. I mean, I actually am extremely thankful for that. The body of work that I produced at that time, of course, it couldn't have happened otherwise. But yeah, now I'm living in Chicago. So in a lot of ways, I'm kind of like rebuilding my own kind of film community here, and stand-up has kind of been like a bit of a Trojan horse in that regard, just for meeting people and things of that nature. In terms of my film work, I mean, yeah, and maybe some of you will be able to relate to this. I definitely do, since I had made some stuff before going to grad school. I made a bunch of stuff through grad school, and now I'm kind of on the other side of that. It can remain a challenge. I feel it sounds like a lot of you are like very productive in your film work, which is impressive to me. But I find it to be very challenging sometimes to even feel like you are still like an active filmmaker, quote unquote. But I tried to just make a lot of stuff during that time. And so a lot of it is kind of like just slowly filtered out since then. So yeah, my thesis film, which I made at UT, which is about 20 minutes long, my sort of redux of that, let's call it, it's again, sort of common theme here, is I locked the music for it recently. So I just basically have to remix it at this point, which it would be awesome if I didn't have to do that. But to know that it's like that close to being done is exciting. So that's kind of going to be like a second half of the year type of thing. And then following that, yeah, just because I'm really trying to just get my beak wet and figure out how I can get back into making like another short or something like that. I do have like a documentary feature that I shot about 10 years ago. That was also just, it was very ambitious, but my skill level was not equal to my level of ambition. And so I'm planning on working on that and just trying to sort of carve the best thing out of that I can at this point. So that's sort of the story of my film work, I think, is just sort of like doing the work and then sometimes trying to figure out over long periods of time, like how do you get it out past then? But at least at this stage, I'm mostly just grateful to have more things to work on, because at least for me, one of the most challenging parts can be like once you're done and you spent all your money and you've exhausted your contacts and you've called in all your favors, it's kind of hard sometimes to know like what do you do next. So for me, I'm kind of just thankful that I have like guideposts of things I've done along the way that can kind of keep me invested while my current life kind of catches up to me.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot going on, a lot of potential projects, and not to completely put Nathaniel on the spot, but Nathaniel has also relocated to Chicago. So there's your film right there. Nathaniel, talk a little bit about what comes next for you. I know you are somebody who's always writing, who's always working on projects. I have to imagine you probably have about 67 different scripts that you're currently in the middle of.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to correct. I made an error earlier. I forgot to mention someone who worked on the film, and I feel bad about forgetting them. But they were involved at different points throughout the writing process, and they have a cameo in the film, and he was in my lap the entire time I was editing, and that's Paul. So I got to give credit to him. The film wouldn't be what it is without him. Paul and John got along great on set as well. So, yeah. Go on, it's for publicity.
I think that it's actually y'all are John and Paul are actually up for the MTV Movie Award for Best Kiss. So not to spoil anything, but that is something that people have to look forward to.
So up next, I produced or co-produced a monster movie that my friend Zach directed, and I also play the monster in it, and that's called Fisher of Men. And that's actually premiering at the Chicago Horror Film Festival in May, which is great because I don't have to buy a ticket for that one. The theater is right down the street. A film that I co-wrote and co-produced called Don't Touch That Dial, which stars John Gholson, is almost done. I think it's literally in the final stages of mixing right now, and it's about to start getting submitted out to festivals. And I am currently writing several films right now. I'm writing a feature, co-writing a feature with a friend called Down the Drain. That is a comedy about two brothers who are plumbers. We are currently in intense litigation with Nintendo. And I am also writing a short film with Spencer Lucas, in which we're also writing a part for John, and John will play the president of baseball in that. So lots of fun things on the horizon.
Michael, we've alluded to the next short film, Time Capsule. What else do you have that you'd like to share at this time? I feel like, based on your schedule, you probably have a number of different projects similar to Nathaniel that are probably in the works.
Yeah, so we have the Time Capsule that has been playing festivals. We premiered back in November. And then in a couple days of the time of taping this, we are launching a crowdfunding campaign for a short called It's Hard Not to Be Romantic About Time Travel, that will also have Taylor in it and Lish. And Ronald, who is in Leverage, will also be in it. So it's going to be a fun, silly take on romantic time travel. The concept of and I'm kind of billing it. It's a proof of concept for a feature, and I'm billing it as Pineapple Express meets Somewhere in Time. So that's the next thing. And then next year we're looking to do a feature.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about all those. They sound really, really cool. So rounding things out here, Taylor, I know you talked a little bit about Basil King, about the entire season. is that kind of where you're putting the focus? You talked about, also like acting more in projects. What's next for you?
Yeah, I'm acting in a few different things coming up, including Michael and Alyssia's film. But I have a couple other friends that they got me in their film as well, which I'm really stoked about. It's always, like I said, before, it's always great to just have to focus on acting and not have to worry about anything else. It's like, okay, just know your lines, know your shit, and perform it well. It's like, cool, hey, sick, I can do that. But now I guess for Basil King, yeah, like I said, we wrote the first season is written. We're looking at pitching that to investors to get the whole rest of the season shot. We're already been like brainstorming stuff for season 2 and season 3. Very ambitious, but we have a lot of things that we want to do with this universe. It's insane. The more that we keep doing these little shorts, the more that we develop more and more things for the actual TV series, which is cool, including characters and plot lines and whatnot. So it's really fun to really mess with that. But yeah, no, other than that, we just we haven't officially announced it yet, so we get all the details up. But we have a big event happening, a big Basil King event happening on July 20th in Austin, which Eric, I'll probably have to talk to. I want to probably talk to you more about at some point. But yeah, we'll be pretty much showcasing everything that we've done in the Basil King universe thus far. We're also going to have like a concert with it, featuring some bands that were associated on the pilot episode, because a lot of pretty much all the music that we had on the pilot episode are local Texas musicians and bands. So we want to bring them a part of the concert. It's going to be a really nice thing. We're going to have vendors, and it's also going to be a benefit for the Hog Foundation. So we're really excited about that. So yeah, everything Basil King. Everyone keeps asking, what's next? What's next? Basil King. But yeah, that's what we got rolling on next, is just more and more Basil King. We got some other shorts that we're looking at introducing, and more characters we want to implement. So yeah, there's a lot to be had with that. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you all again. I'm so incredibly excited about Friday, April 25th, for this opening night of the Comedy Film Festival, the Texas Short Film Showcase. I hope that y'all are all able to join us. And the really cool thing, as we mentioned, is that each of these films that are being featured in this short film showcase are also going to get an encore showing through the festival. So thank you again. 7 p.m. Friday, April 25th at AFS Cinema as part of the Comedy Film Festival. And I can't wait to see everybody there.